all know that every single night for us up here is goddamn Halloween!
In the last reaction, we spoke about, the inverted crosses, and, he is a practicing Satanist. But as you can see, there's satanic elements in his music. But as you can see, there's inverted crosses and there's regular crosses. Obviously, there's religious iconography in his material, but it's all comes from a horror based, because him being a practicing Satanist has really nothing to do with his music. That's more his lifestyle and his personal choice.
Yeah, I wish I knew more. I need to read more about that.
Okay, I mean, I'm not an expert in Satanism, because to me, being satanic is kind of a religion, and I feel like, why are you going to disregard one religion for another? I mean, but as with all other organized religions, Satanism does have different types of Satanism. So you know how you have Christians, you have I guess Mormons, offshoots, like branches. They're like, right? So not every Satanist is the same. So I can only speak on the kind of Satanist he is.
You know that he is.
But he follows the one which I'm kind of familiar with, which is, you're on this earth. You need to enjoy yourself, because you only got one go around on this earth. It doesn't matter what happens in the afterlife.
Right. If there's even a thing, if there's even
right. It's basically, instead of restricting yourself with sins, for example, and mind you, we're not talking like the sins of murder and rape and stuff like that. We're talking about the sins of having fun, of living your life, of not being ashamed to be wealthy, or to do, you can be a good person and still be a Satanist, because it's not about not caring about sins. You still have a moral code that is your own, a moral compass, but you're not restricting yourself with some idea that someone is judging you based on what you're doing.
Right, but that's kind of what I live my life.
Well,
that way.
But that's why I say, Satanism is like, because why you don't need to call yourself. I feel like you're calling yourself a Satanist because you want to make the Christians angry.
No, I don't think it's even that, though. To be honest, babe, I think there's much more to being a Satanist than that.
If you're being one of those weird Satanists, sure. I'm talking about the kind of Satanist he is, which is he's just basically believes in living his life to the fullest and not being afraid of some God's judgment. But he's not a bad person.
Living.
That's what I'm saying. There's not much difference to me than being an atheist. It's just like you have a moral code, and you don't believe that there's this arbitrary made up rules that you're following. But I feel like when they go that extra step to be a Satanist, it's not really the opposite of Christianity. Well, it's the opposite of Christianity, but it's not the opposite of religion. So it's the opposite of Christianity, and perhaps I feel like they were Christians, or they have a belief in Christianity, and they're choosing to be satanic because they're rejecting the ideology.
They believe there is a God and there's a devil.
Right.
Okay, but they're choosing to follow behind Satan. They believe in his path more than...
They believe that, and I'm speaking personally, I can't speak for King now, but I'm going to speak for myself. If I believed in Christianity, I have genuine issues with the ego of God and the judgment of God.
Yes.
And he just sounds, when you read the Bible and you read what what the punishments are and what you're supposed to do, and he just sounds evil. And I believe Satanists feel that way, and they feel like perhaps Satan is getting the bad rap. It's God who's actually evil. And you can't tell me that someone who rapes and murders and kills, who on his deathbed repents. I might be confusing it with Catholicism.
No offense.
But I'm not trying to offend anyone. But you can't tell me he's going to heaven if he accepts God into his heart.
No, they will.
Well, I understand that's the concept. But if you're telling me that, I'm going to reject that to your face, and I'm probably going to go be a Satanist if I believed in that stuff. I'm an atheist, because that's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense to say that someone who can live a sinful life can repent and go to heaven. No. So that doesn't work for me, and I think that's what makes a Satanist. I believe they do believe, but I believe that they're looking at what it is and rejecting it on those types of tenets, that the hypocrisy and all this God testing you by doing these harmful things. It just makes him look so evil. So I feel like that's why it sits badly with them.
It just, religious people say that God is a merciful God. Really? How merciful is God when he's allowing a person like myself to be molested? When he's allowing my father to live all of his days on earth, without punishment, people, rapes, kidnappings, murder, a lot of things that okay, let me just
I'm going to stop you there, but when you step back from the world, from earth, go back to take a look down, and you see everything that's happened, and you see the unfairness of life, you start to realize it's simple math. It's some people get the short straw, others get the long straw. It's numbers. The more we are, the more things will happen in a certain amount of time, right? Everyone dies in a car accident on average X amount of time. That's just the way the universe works. That's just coincidence. That's just...
We're not trying to reform. We're not trying to change people's perception.
Yeah, I guess I'll shut up now.
Cut that. Because we're all entitled to believe what we want. And,
Listen, I've said it before on the Slayer reaction. We removed the rant before, and I'm not ranting now. I've got no reason to rant. I understand how hard it is to have a objective conversation when the idea that you're discussing is your identity.
Yeah, and it's difficult because I was a Christian at some point for a very long time.
So we're not looking to convert anyone. We're not looking for you to denounce God or anything. We're not saying any of that. I understand why feels a need to explain the unknown and to get that comfort in death and to just not want to feel like there's nothing. I understand that not everyone just wants to live in a world like that. And for them, I have no problem with anyone believing whatever they want. I only ever have a problem with governance, the rules of law. Anytime you are applying... How can I say this without offending anyone? I don't want to say fictional, even though I believe obviously religion is fictional. I believe that it was created, God. I actually had this conversation with someone earlier today, in YouTube comments.
You need to stop talking to these people. Stop.
I started up another conversation, but this was on somebody else's channel. This is a Greater Sapien. I don't know if anyone here knows about him, but Greater Sapien, he's I think he has a background in education, but basically he debunks flat earth and stuff like that. And he's a very interesting guy to watch, definitely a very intelligent person to watch. He's an atheist also, and he talks about, from a very respectful way, why he's an atheist, and he lets religious people ask him questions and is able to answer them.
That's awesome. That's wonderful.
I enjoy that too. I have, in the Slayer reaction, I had a long conversation with a fellow commenter, and we talked about religion back and forth and our beliefs. And I was having this conversation with the atheist. He asked the question in the comments. I'm sorry, he is a Christian, but he asked the question in the comments. I couldn't remember, so I pulled it up on my phone. My only question for an atheist would be, where did the universe come from? Yes, from a science perspective, it came from the Big Bang, and I agree with that, but I'm talking about what science calls the Planck era. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. He spells it Planck era, which was the universe as it was before the Big Bang. Now, this is my first time ever hearing that, so I have to see, because it's my understanding that we don't know what happened.
We don't know exactly what happened to
before the Big Bang. We only have the evidence of the Big Bang based on the energy from the Big Bang, but I don't see how we know what happened before that. So I'm not sure where he's getting this from. But I wanted to answer his question. So he continues, so how did even the Planck era come to be? I've read about it over and over, and it always says, no current theory in science can describe the conditions of the universe at this time, or something to that effect, which is correct. That's my understanding. We don't know. I believe science and religion can go hand in hand. It's not black and white. I was raised Catholic, and contrary to popular opinion, Catholics do not take the Bible literally.
Oh, Winston, wait, what? Hold on.
Okay, we'll let him have that one. Okay. If you don't take it literally,
then
why are you...
What's popping?
If that's if the book of God's not real, then
he's
maybe
speaking for himself. He can't speak for our Catholics.
All right. But I had no interest in talking to him about that because that's his choice.
That's not exactly.
Yeah, I believe in the Big Bang, and I believe in evolution of humans. So he's Catholic, not Christian. I know Christians would have a problem with this because they believe the world is, or the universe is 6,000 years old.
Most Christians, yes.
And that's just not possible. That was actually the conversation I had with the guy with the Slayer. Unfortunately, he deleted his video. William,
his comment.
I'm free to talk with you anytime,
Would
man. I don't know if
you
you're still watching.
stop calling the man outside? It's over.
Don't delete your comments. Let's have a good conversation.
But
We were having a friendly
he was
conversation.
ready for it to end.
But that's the thing with the identity politics. Like, I have no problem going back and forth with you all day long. When you have good points, you can make them back and forth. Unfortunately, like he gets frustrated with his friends. He says it in the comments that he gets frustrated with his atheist friends because he always hits a wall and he doesn't understand why, which is why I wanted to interject.
Babe, when a person when you're trying to convey a message that you feel is factual, and people are constantly going against what you're stating, no matter what you say and how hard you try, they're just not getting it. What's the freaking point of pursuing the conversation?
Well, because when you have facts, you're able to prove things.
Yeah, but
if they're not convinced,
if you're not open to receiving that, babe, there's a wall there. Listen,
well, there's a difference between not being open. Like, he's being open because he's asking the question. So to me, that's being open. If you're asking a question,
it's a rhetorical
you
question,
want an answer
because he doesn't feel that you have an answer for him.
Well, here's the thing. Let me finish the conversation. So, which takes me back to the Planck era. Science and religion can no longer go hand in hand there. Until someone can explain the era and how it came to be, you cannot tell me God or a supreme being does not exist. So basically, essentially what he's saying is, because there is an unknown, in this case, what happened before the Big Bang, therefore, God must exist. That's essentially what he's saying.
And that's what I used to believe too when I was a Christian. I mean, everything, you think about how small we are and how insignificant we are in the grand scheme of things. I'm like, there has to be a God. How do we get it? This is so miraculous, us living, breathing, procreating, creating things, technology and so on and so forth. I felt like there's no way there isn't a God. It's just too magnificent for us for there not to be a God.
Right. And what's amazing is it can be all those things even without a God.
Even without a God, of course, babe, of course. But again, you have to be open to receiving and understanding and seeing that. Because I wasn't.
But the thing is, you had your doubts.
Yeah, that is very true.
Yeah, because you saw.
That is true.
I don't know why some people can and some people can't see like a more bigger picture.
Yeah, that is correct, baby.
And start to realize, well, wait a minute. There's some things that are not adding up.
A lot of things just didn't make any sense. But I grew up in believing that, so it was ingrained in me.
It's like the flat earthers, okay, so you want to argue that the earth is flat, but once you do that, now science and math and everything else. And now suddenly everything ceases to work, because once you start rotating the earth, everything starts to fall into place as far as how the tides are working and how the moment you stop that, all the other explanations no longer work. And that's how you know something is real, because it's an emerging truth. Every one truth adds on top of the next truth and adds on top of the next truth. If you start to explain things and there are holes in what you are doing, the math does not add up, you have to stop and figure out where you made a mistake.
Of course.
And I feel like the problem with something like religion is the math won't add up. For him, his problem is, and this is something where I explained it. I'll wrap this up quick because we go back and forth several times. But ultimately, I was trying to explain to him that the answer to his question is simple. The answer to the question is that we don't know. We don't know what happened before the Big Bang, and he could not accept that as an answer. He feels like that is proving that God exists, and that it's illogical not to believe that God exists. But when you think about, if you're bringing logic into this, how is making something up and inserting it into an unknown logical?
Yeah.
Since the beginning of time, God has been used, or gods have been used to explain everything. From thunder to famine to anything that happens that's wrong or right with you. The things that we know as coincidence and just kind of the chaos of the universe, that good things happen to good people, bad things happen to good people, good things happen to bad people. In order to explain those things or to feel some sense of control, they insert God into it. When science or when common sense steps in and explains something. For example, if there's a plague and we don't know what's causing the plague, we look to God for answers. But then when we find out and understand what caused the plague and we cure it, God is no longer an issue there. And we've taken that element out of the equation. Every time science explains something, it pushes God back and pushes the explanations forward. And then it keeps pushing and pushing back to where we are now, where people think that we're losing God and losing religion. It's not because we're losing something that was real, it's just that we are replacing it with what's real. And this gentleman now has taken it to such an extreme where he is going to the edge of the universe, to the very beginning of creation, to hide God there and say, well, this is where he is. And as one day, we may never know, but one day if we ever do know, quite frankly, if it turns out to be God, guess what? I'm going to believe in God, because again, once there's evidence, once there's some sense of genuine understanding, I am free and open to accept it. It's not like I don't want to be religious or I don't want to believe in God. In the absence of any kind of facts or truth or any kind of genuine reason, it's not possible for me to do that. But I would gladly change my mind once we get to that point. I wouldn't gladly change my mind,
to be honest. If there were a God, I would not gladly change my mind, because there's so much has happened in my life, in people's lives around me, that I'll be like, you know what, screw you, God. I don't want to be a part
of this. Well, I'll tell you right now, and now I'm talking from my booty, but this is pure opinion. But if there is a God, it's nothing like the God that man has any idea or any concept of.
Oh, exactly.
But that's why that's why I have a problem even calling it God.
Exactly.
There is an energy in the universe. There is a creation point. But the idea that he has any semblance to what we look or act like, we are not the special ones here. Okay.
Yes.
The creation and the energy of the universe and the fact that we exist at all is what's special. But the idea that, and of course it makes sense, we're the self-aware ones. So the self-aware ones are going to make God in our own image. But that's because we think we're special. We've got so much life on this planet. Not all of it is self-aware.
Right.
All of it is special and unique.
Exactly.
A lot of it has personality. A lot of it blood-born. A lot of it learned. There's a lot of uniqueness. We just happen to have evolved and existed long enough to become self-aware. It's kind of inevitability. It's an inevitability of nature to continue to evolve, and we just happen to the neurons and connectors in our brain just happened to get to the point we've developed problem solving, and we developed language, and now we can speak in our heads, which creates intelligent thought. then we have to have a side effect of our evolution is the fact that we need to understand and know everything. So when we didn't know, we had to make something up.
Yes.
That's,
baby.
to me, I'm not trying to offend anyone. To me, that is where the evidence, if you step back and look at this objectively, that's the result and the culmination of our existence. This is, just step back and take a big picture, a big look at how we've got here. That's all I'm saying.
Deuces to that conversation.
Yeah, and I did all this after our reaction, so you can't tell me I made a long intro. The intro was short, and you could have skipped all of this part. So if you're here,
correct.
you're probably an atheist.
Oh no!
All right, and again, if you're not, listen.
We can have a dialogue about it.
I have no problem
Don't
with
try to
anyone.
convert me though.
With anyone who speaks respectfully to us in the comments.
Indeed,
you know we
always.
always have a dialogue with you guys. We have
Exactly.
no problem with that.
Indeed.
Anyone who's not respectful, we delete because we don't care. We
We
just don't
care
want to
to
deal
talk
with
to
it.
you.
So
We don't care what you think. You know?
we if you come at us like a jackass, then
Like
we don't care what
sideways
you
and stuff.
think. If you come at us respectfully and just talk like a normal human being,
Yes.
then I actually do care what you think. I'm going to be honest with
Absolutely,
you.
baby. Yes, indeed.
I
You
can't
guys matter to us.
I can't form
Not the haters, though. Not the trolls, but
yeah.
yes.
But just speaking for myself, I can't form my beliefs and my opinions and know the facts that I know without constantly testing them. And I can't test them unless I try to genuinely understand why people with opposing viewpoints than mine think the way they do.
Right.
And I'm always open to hear why you believe what you believe. Over the years, I've learned that fear has a lot to do with it. The fear of the unknown.
Oh, absolutely.
Fear of death.
Oh, man.
And of course, if you were raised religious, of course, what you're taught as a child is obviously going to translate into your adulthood. So there's a lot of reasons why we're religious. I also believe it's in our blood. I believe we've been,
I mean, as well.
cultists
We're
and
so
religious.
compatible, babe. You think
Yeah, but we've been cultists and religious, and we've used it as a survival tool to control the populations and to survive as together, in this crazy world over thousands of years. So I believe it's also in our blood. There's kind of an inherent feeling of there must be something. And I think that's just that's a remnant of consciousness. You how can you not? I mean, I'm perfectly self-aware of what I'm
Right.
doing and where I'm at,
Of
and
course.
that is just a ridiculous notion.
Indeed.
We have Tiger. He passed away. We have no idea to even know if he understood what was happening to
I
him.
know, that's really sad.
Well, it's sad, but at the same time, it's beautiful. He had a beautiful life,
Yes, he did.
and it came to an end, and he moved on. But it's not fair, and it's not just, and it doesn't, and it's not going to be, because that's not the universe. It doesn't play by those rules.
Right. Doesn't owe us anything.
All it does is it forms,
Yeah.
and it expands,
It evolves.
and things are created and destroyed. I mean, the only lesson from this is to live your best life. This is where we come back to his beliefs. King Diamond is to live your best life, because you don't know what's going to happen on the other side. If there is something there, great. If not, so be it. If you made this count every single day, right now, this moment, and every moment after it, and every moment after it, each and every moment is the moment that matters, and make the best of it.
Yes, baby.
And don't take people you love for granted,
No.
and love your family, love your friends,
And be good to yourself.
be good to yourself, eat well, don't smoke, don't drink.
Drink plenty of water. Exercise. Okay. It's the truth, though.
Yes. This is what
it,
matters.
baby. This is what matters, indeed.
Even if there is a God, this is still what matters. If the God that I would believe in is the kind of God who would look at me, see that I was a good man, did good things, helped people, and he would let me in, even if I didn't acknowledge he existed,
Exactly.
because to have an ego like that doesn't make any
Jeez,
sense.
it doesn't make any sense.
So he should
just say, welcome home. Come to me.
think about it. I mean, you make these creations and they live amongst themselves in these complicated worlds, and then you come to him when you're done. Why would he not want to accept you?
If he loves me, why wouldn't he? If he loves me, why wouldn't he?
It's a ridiculous notion, but
it's just so silly.
So that's all.
That's it. Please click the link below to see my schedule on Twitch and join me live and be a part of all the beautiful fun.
And I don't care what that rapist and murderer says. He can repent all he wants. That fucker going to hell.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Please don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, and share.